Welcome to our podcast, The Better You Are, The Better You Are. Whether it is physically, mentally, or spiritually, when you know better, you can do better. And when you do better, you'll be better. On this podcast, we share knowledge, expertise, opinions, and experiences. All things that can help you to change the game. By the time we're done, it's hard for you not to be encouraged. So join us. The better you are, the better you are.
Okay, we are going to switch over to Lauren now. So, Lauren, you represent a major university and work with policymakers in Washington, D.C. to advance the initiatives and priorities in the areas such as education, research, and workforce development for the university you work for. Explain that a little bit to us, and what does that mean, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I advocate for the university. Being based in DC gives a little bit of a different perspective in the field. Some people may not be based in DC, they may be back on their campuses. So being kind of front and center, being able to go to the Hill if something happens last minute, meet with members of Congress or their staffs to build that relationship, so that they recognize me, they recognize the institution, and if they need something, I'm someone they can call.
Excellent. And then, so tell us what a typical job in your day is like.
So I get this question a lot. I say for my role, but also DC, there is no typical day to day. Things can change day to day, things can change hour to hour. So it really is kind of, as Eric said, I had to try to create what works for me, recognizing that. So I might start my day with news, whether that's a news podcast or news article. I have a couple that I subscribe to that I can listen on my commute in to the office of, okay, what's top line today? What's happening? What might have happened overnight? Because that happens sometimes, that news breaks that I need to be aware of for myself, anything I need to report back or update people on, or just that I need to, know what's currently going on that might change something I'm working on. And then a lot of emails, and then communicating internally kind of with the institution and my team of, what are our priorities? So I kind of wear two hats in my role of sometimes it's institution focused. What do we have that I need to be updated on? What do we have? I'm not on the Hill every day. So then sometimes it might be I have people in town for a fly-in. So I need to plan for that, or it's upcoming, or I need to go and do meetings. So planning, is today a work day? Is today a in-person day in terms of I'm going to an event or I'm going to a meeting?
And when you talk about those meetings, you, for example, you might say the president of the university is flying in today. I'd like him to meet with this head of staff or senator, important to our university, things like that.
Yep, things like that. I call a fly-in. When in DC, it could be a firm that has company clients. It could be, someone like me that's internal to an institution of any kind. And, you might have entities or principals or, as you said, presidents coming in to DC. All right, that's something I've planned at least maybe a month in advance, picking a date, requesting meetings with staff or members. That doesn't just happen overnight. So is it a planning day? What does that schedule look like? When do they need to be done? Also being aware what's going on the Hill that day. Is Congress even in session? So picking dates of, okay, do we want to try to meet with a member? Well, here's a time. If they're in recess right now, like in August, you're not going to meet with a member in DC, but we could try to meet with staff. So kind of looking backwards, looking at the schedule ahead, maybe a month ahead of, okay, what do I need to plan? What goes into this? Who do I need to reach out to strategically, depending on what we're talking about? Who in our state delegation or Congress as a whole that we have relationships with. Who cares about this issue, or who do we want to educate on this issue?
And I know I've utilized you to listen to the bill and for things that might be pertinent to what I'm doing. This new government regulation came down. It's amazing how it affects your university, but it also affects me in my field in Valencia and everybody else, in what they do. Even quite frankly, recently, government regulations have affected airlines and housing and everything. So it affects everybody. So I sneak in and use you to guide me on what's newest in these bills because, quite frankly, sometimes they're hard to understand. Tell us what you especially like about your job.
One of my favorite parts about my job and my current role is getting to work with students. So that's a plus in addition to the government relations that I enjoy and picked as a career, but getting to mentor in my office, we have students who work with us. And so they'll be back on campus. And I was able to have interns this summer with me in DC and really getting to show them and see the difference from they've worked with me for about a year now from campus, but being in DC and leaving saying they really understand what I do. I say you either love or you hate DC when you're in it. And that could be in terms of, okay, I want to live here, I want to do this, versus DC is a fun place to visit. And so knowing my journey of I interned in DC and absolutely loved it and said this after graduation, this is where I want to come, seeing that fire or playing a role in lighting that fire in current students and kind of getting to educate and help them with projects. I always ask, what are your skill sets? Where do you want to improve to get you where you want to go? And being able to provide with my knowledge projects that can help them get there, and seeing them make connections on their own is probably one of my favorite additions to my job.
So you really work with high level presidents and senators and chief of staff, and also work with students who are coming up, young minded babies in this situation, and guiding them and mentoring them as well. And so you have those two components, and you enjoy both of those.
I do. I like DC is very much about building relationships. And it's something that I've gotten better at as time goes on, but getting to kind of communicate that and sometimes I get to take students along with me and see them, help me build relationships. I always say, help me to help you to help me.
Absolutely.
So kind of everyone benefiting, because in a university role, a big part of it is also students.
So similar to everybody else here on this panel, how important are the small things or the little things in what you need to do when you're communicating with those students and preparing things versus, or even your interactions on a day-to-day basis?
The little things are very important. I'll kind of echo off of Eric. Sometimes it's wording and something we're communicating. So if I go to a congressional office, we might have what we call leave behinds, something that we want to leave behind with the office that has maybe the talking points, maybe the top 5 topics, or kind of goes more in depth of something we talked about, so that when we leave, if they want to remember without reaching out to me and asking, they have it right there in front of them, they can pass it along. Certain wording I tell people you want to avoid. So I also prep students, faculty, staff, partners, or collaborators when they come to meetings. The same wording that someone might use, in an academic setting, in an industry setting, in a day-to-day student setting. They could use one term to a member of Congress or a staffer. That term might mean something else to them. And so knowing that we might be talking about the same thing, I don't ever want to send anyone in where then the person they're meeting with shuts off their brain because it's a term that they have a negative connotation to. And so helping people find other words, understand if I don't understand, hey, what does this mean? What are you trying to get across, and helping them find other ways to do that. Also in wording of a document, something recently has been, we solve real problems. well, does that mean that the problems we solved before weren't real? Or, why are we using that wording when I could say in-demand problems, upcoming pressing problems, to say we're solving for the future, that, I have to sometimes think in other ways and other wordings that people don't have to.
Nice, nice. So, similar to everybody else here, things happen that you don't expect or didn't go in life, my goodness, didn't go exactly the way you planned. How important is it to have a plan B or to be able to think through things and adjust?
It's a big thing to have to. I was thinking about this with the other questions of I've learned to pivot more. I think I
like
already
that.
knew how to pivot, but I feel like I pivot a lot.
Good.
And so that could be because I make a plan for today. Like I said, maybe I have a goal. I went to bed the night before, thought through, okay, tomorrow's plan for my day to day is going to look like this. Legislation might drop on the congressional end that I now need to monitor. And so that changes my day. It could be that now someone's coming. I've had it once that someone was in town and then wanted to do meetings and asked me a couple days before, can we get something? So now I'm reaching out, seeing if anybody's available. It might be we have on the internal side, we have something that is now due today, that someone needs me to look at before it goes out. So having to pivot and, knowing that something could come up and I can make a prioritized list in my head and something might come and wash that whole list away. So
And I know that sometimes you have students with you, and sometimes you're traveling across. I'm so impressed. I must say, the what do they call them? The trams. They don't call them the trams. The
Metro.
metro and all those, intimidating to me. Very intimidating. How could I ever get to where I'm trying to go? And all those ways, but you got students as you're trying to transition through that too. But something happens that you have to now. Should we walk? Should we do this? How important is or somebody gets sick of one of your students, and I got 7 other students that need to meet with this senator's group, and now I have to have a plan B. How important are plan Bs to you?
I think that, plan Bs look like you kind of gave an example, a lot of different ways. And so it really is, I don't have, let me rephrase this the right way. I have a team that I work with and report to, a VP I report to. But in terms of federal, I'm the only person, I'm a registered lobbyist for federal, and I'm the only one who handles that, and I'm the only one in DC. So being able to pivot when people are here, and being able to rely on people to have a plan B in mind that I know, hey, this student's been out here with me in DC. I know they know what I look for. Maybe I can send them to a meeting with someone if we now have to split up because someone needed to reschedule. It might be that, I have a project I need to review, but I know someone else can take a first look for me while I'm doing this meeting. So it looks a lot of different ways as a plan B, C, D, E, and sometimes it goes the whole alphabet. But
Thank you for listening in today. Weren't you inspired, encouraged, and uplifted? We hope so, because we're praying the best for you. Join us again next time for more betterment, because the better you are, the better you are.